What's going on, guys? It's Bromley at Empire Barbell, and today we're going to talk about foundational movements to help you increase your ability to breathe and brace while lifting. Now, if you've seen any of my older videos, you've seen, I'm sure, a dozen on breathing and bracing, how important it is, how vital it is to not just lift effectively, but to stay in one piece. We've gone over this 100 times, and I'm going to keep going over it because I know none of you are doing your due diligence in getting your midsection not just strong, but coordinated. Coordination's the big thing here. We're not just trying to build strong abdominals. They have to know how to move, exactly where positioning is, and how to set in. And that's how you're gonna keep your back safe under very heavy squats and very heavy deadlift attempts, okay? So that's where so many people miss out. I was just talking to a buddy of mine about how we wish we would have known when we started so many of the things we know now when it comes to injury prevention. And again, the things that keep you healthy tend to be the same things that make you more effective at lifting anyways. So they're things that you still want to prioritize because yes, your gain will increase. Now, when you think of a world-class lifter, when you think of somebody being very strong, you think of big, powerful movers, right? You think of a big squatter having huge quads and really thick developed hips. You think of a big presser having really big shoulders, even a big overhead presser being very developed through the arms and the triceps and the main movers. What you also need to start associating with big lifters or with the best performers, you need to start associating a midsection that is capable of getting hit by a Mack truck. That's what you need. You need to have a midsection that is capable of squeezing so tight that it can keep your spine, which is just a series of these tiny little bones stacked on top of each other, that is capable of keeping your spine rigid under hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pounds. That requires knowledge of coordination, knowing the position you're supposed to be in, and it requires physical strength within that position. So we're gonna go over my favorite movements starting out because coordination is the big one that everybody struggles with right out of the gate. I mean, that's the big one first, is understanding what position you're supposed to be in and what that feels like. Once you're in that position, then we work on extending duration, getting you comfortable doing it longer and longer. Then eventually we go to more complex movements or movements where you're loaded, or putting yourself in a more disadvantaged position. But that comes down the road. Everybody wants to start doing ab rollouts on their toes right off the bat. Most of you don't even know how to lock your ribs down and breathe with your spine in a neutral position. So if you're jumping straight to the purple and black belt stuff, you're gonna do yourself a disservice. You might even increase the chance that something happens. So what I'm gonna do now is a modified version of the McGill 3. For those of you that don't know, Stu McGill is a spine specialist. He did some good work with Brian Carroll when it came to repairing his spine. He was a multi-ply lifter who was used to getting under 1,000 pounds on a regular basis, obliterated his spine. McGill helped him with his comeback, and I believe he avoided surgery in the process. So it's a pretty good story, but a lot of McGill's work is very commonly used and recommended because you have the benefit of a spine specialist with the benefit of working with somebody specific to strength sports who deals specifically with a lot of detrimental work to the spine. So McGill's philosophy, which makes sense and it's what I've applied to myself, is that the role of the abdominals in the midsection and the muscles around your spine is not to move, it's to actually resist movement. So what we're gonna do is find our best posture, okay? We always strive to have the hips and spine neutral and the ribs down, so remember, diaphragm stacked on top of the pelvic floor. So first step is finding that position. Second step is bracing in that position. And then third step is running through that for longer and longer durations. So the McGill 3 is the McGill curl up, the side plank, and the bird dog. I'm actually gonna substitute the bird dog for a dead bug because the bird dog happens on all fours, and just like a plank, it requires you supporting your own weight. But if you do that before you have an understanding of what posture is, what it feels like, and you don't really have the ability to find that and hold that for long periods of time, you're gonna be doing yourself a disservice right off the bat. So I prefer a dead bug. And we're gonna go over a couple others. We already did the 90-90 breathing. I think the 90-90 breathing should start off every workout you do or every abdominal workout you do. If you come in, you plan on doing brace work, start with the 90-90 breathing, and then we'll go into the other stuff. So that way your abs, your midsection, the muscles in your core will already be primed, ready to work, ready to function. That receptivity is huge, guys. Remember, this is just as much coordination as anything else. So to start out, we're gonna do the McGill curl up. This one is very simple. It's a finesse movement, so you're going for a specific feeling. One leg bent, one leg out, okay? Hands under the low back. This will help keep your lower back neutral, and head back. Now what you're gonna do It's not specifically a crunch. What you're gonna do is lift your head off the ground, keeping your chin pointed up, as if what they say is if your head was on a scale, imagine you're bringing the scale to 0. Just ever so slightly, and you wanna make sure that you're pulling at the rib. You wanna feel how your abdominals are pulling to get your head off the ground just ever so slightly. And in this position, we're actively keeping the abdominals tight, and just like the 90-90 breathing, we're trying to breathe into those braced abdominals. So we'll do several counts. Abdominals tense and back out. You want to maintain position in your spine. And then back down. And then you repeat. Back up. And back down. And while we're doing that, we want to make sure that these muscles are pulling the ribs into position, because this is what is setting your ribs into a appropriate position relative to your hips. And this is what we're going to be striving to do when we are actually under a barbell, when we're trying to handle a big amount of weight while we are trying to maintain this position. So we're ingraining those habits now. You do so many reps and then you switch. Okay, again, increasing receptivity. Head comes slightly off the ground. Okay, I'm tense through here. And just like the 90-90 breathing, I'm breathing into those tensed abs while I maintain a neutral position. From there, we go into the side plank. Okay, so now we're going to get into anti-flexion movements, and I'm going to talk about anti-movements down the road because they're some of my favorite developmental exercises to really get a handle on this. So a side plank, many of you have done, it's one of the easier ones to do, which is why it's appropriate for this type of beginner level, like building coordination and receptivity. So for a side plank, you're just going to be planked up on your arm. Again, spine in a neutral position. You want your top leg in front of the bottom leg, and all you're going to do, they recommend putting your hand on your opposite shoulder. Sometimes I'll put it on my hip, but this is what they recommend. Bridge your hips up. Again, actively brace, don't just hold position. You're gonna feel this oblique doing the work, okay, because this is the muscle that has to shorten to keep you up, and we're going for time. And over time, from workout to workout, we're looking at holding this for longer and longer, keeping your leg and hip off, okay? Again, the gravity is trying to force your body weight down. You are resisting that motion, so this counts as anti-lateral flexion. Switch to the other side, repeat. And these movements you want to do for several rounds. It's all about coordination. Anytime coordination is a factor, practice is very important. So you want to be able to do them for as many touches as possible. And it's one of the reasons why endurance is the thing you want to build up first before we just start loading weight. Get practice, know what that positioning feels like, drill it, drill it, drill it. The third one, typically McGill recommends a bird dog, and I'm going to substitute that because a bird dog, even I struggle with keeping proper position in a bird dog. So it's more important when you're out of position, not just to suck it up and go for it anyways. It's more important to take a few steps back, find the positioning first. And this actually goes for all of your lifts, by the way. Find positioning first, make sure you can maintain position, then try to load it, then try to advance. But you can't put the cart before the horse here. So a dead bug, similar to a bird dog, just in reverse. You're gonna be on your back. We call it a dead bug because you look like a dead cockroach. Okay, 90-90 position with the legs, head back, okay, arms straight up in the air. And what you're gonna do, similar to the curl up, I like to bring my head up a little bit, keep them tight. You are going to extend, you're going to straighten out the opposite arm and leg while staying absolutely rigid, in the other limbs, and then bring it back. Coordination can get a little weird at first, that's okay. Remember to brace actively. You're gonna keep it in your abdominals, make sure they're staying tight and that you're breathing into them, and then you're gonna switch, and this is where it gets tricky. So in essence, a dead bug is just a bird dog in reverse. So when we do go to a bird dog down the road, it's gonna be when it's more appropriate for you to do things like planks and then eventually like Gaberlugs, where you know where your position is, you can support your body weight, and then you can perform that same movement in reverse. So bird dog is essentially the same movement, you're on all fours, and it's the same deal. It's opposite leg, opposite arm. Of course, you can see my lumbar spine is pulled into a little too much flexion. I have trouble getting my arms and legs to the right height without leaning or turning. So that's where it becomes more practice, and that's why I spend more time doing things like dead bugs and things that reinforce spinal position over just trying to jump arbitrarily into the more advanced movement. So these three make up the crux. They should be the cornerstone of any spine health regimen. Anything that aims to get you stronger in a way that's going to carry over to your main lifts and also keep you healthier, keep you from suffering disc issues that so many of us have, or overuse issues that so many of us have from pulling out of position. And then this will be the groundwork, once you get good at it, off of which you will build a heavier, more substantial midsection work. But remember, you gotta walk before you can run. Make sure you can get into position, make sure you know what neutral feels like. Then you start to progress by adding duration and then eventually adding load and complexity. So thanks for watching, guys. I'm gonna follow this up with a discussion on some of my favorite anti-movements, anti-rotation, anti-flexion, and so on, that are the way we take this one step above and really start to get the midsection really familiar with what it's like to stay tight in a very dynamic environment where we're constantly being pulled in other directions. So thanks for watching, guys. Until next time, this is Untitled Chapter Barbell. I'll see you.